This is the accusation. They're throwing around the word treason.
I hate to say this, but President Barack Obama, there is now incontrovertible evidence that he was the spearhead of a seditious conspiracy to subvert the will of the American people and overthrow the United States government back in 2016.
They're saying that Obama knew that Russia did not meddle in the election, did not have any impact.
It was 8 years that he cried racism every time you criticized him. He says, get tough. Well, where's he been? They've been firebombing stuff and rioting and marching and filibustering, setting records. He's been on the beach in Hawaii licking snow cones. How much tougher can you get with Trump?
What if the most charismatic president of the modern era was also its greatest illusionist? What if the soaring speeches, the calm demeanor, and the promise of hope and change were all part of a carefully constructed performance, a masterpiece of political theater designed to mask a much darker and more complicated reality? This isn't a story about left versus right. It's the story of a man who became a brand, a myth that captivated the world.
Can I get a glass of water? This is not a prank. He gets a glass of Flint tap water, and I swear to God, he drinks it like this, like this.
Can I get some water? I really did need a glass of water. This is not a stunt.
Usually when something isn't a stunt, you have to say that.
It's 100%.
Have you been to Obama's presidential library? Of course not. No one has. It's been in the works for 8 years, and it's only half done. But it is breaking records for the most days between leaving office and the grand opening. Nearly 3,000 days and counting. Originally, it was supposed to cost $350 million, but a couple minor setbacks, some snowy winters. The price tag is now over $800 million. The Bulls built Jordan the United Center for under $200 million.
The performance began long before he ever set foot in the Oval Office. It was crafted in the promise of unity, in the rhetoric that transcended division, and in the powerful image of a man who could heal a fractured nation. The world didn't just elect a president, it fell in love with a symbol, and the ultimate coronation of this symbol was just around the corner, an award that would cement his image before he had even truly begun.
It's fun because things are actually happening. Very different than most of the time when people get elected.
And I will shut down the federal Department of Education and we will move everything back to the state.
Most of the time when people get elected, they claim all these things when they're running for president. Then they get into office and not much changes.
Individualize education and do it with the love for their children.
And in fact, a lot of what they campaigned on, they don't practice at all. Great example is the Obama administration. The Hope and Change website had to be changed because there was a bunch of stuff in there about whistleblowers.
No, I don't think Mr. Snowden was a patriot. I called for a thorough review of our surveillance operations before Mr. Snowden made these leaks. My preference would have been for a lawful, orderly examination of these laws.
Protecting whistleblowers, which they didn't do at all. There was one of the worst administrations for whistleblowers.
In 2009, Barack Obama was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize. He had been in office for less than a year and hadn't brokered any major peace deals. The prize wasn't for what he had done, it was for what he represented. It was a global endorsement of the brand, a testament to the power of his image. Even he seemed surprised, but this premature award set a dangerous precedent. It solidified the idea that with Obama, the style was the substance. But behind the standing ovations, a very different story was being written in the shadows.
Obama's trying to save the party he destroyed, so he's on a manhunt. But there's one problem. The brothers don't listen to him anymore, so he's trying to transition boys into girls. Barack's got his own rules for men, but these are the rules that made men leave the party in the first place. Barry says guys don't always have to be the providers, as long as they talk about their feelings.
While the world celebrated a new era of peace, the Obama administration was quietly perfecting a new form of warfare. The Nobel laureate who spoke of diplomacy became the master of the drone. He inherited a drone program but supercharged it, expanding its reach from a few dozen strikes under his predecessor to thousands. It was a clinical, detached form of combat, waged from the safety of a control room thousands of miles away.
When you look at the policies and the attacks on whistleblowers and drone strikes and all the other that happened during that administration and the coup in Russia, and like there's a lot that's from a foreign policy perspective that's very similar to what George Bush was doing. But what they were doing was highlighting social justice issues that came about during his administration, largely obscured the fact that the foreign policies were very similar to what George Bush was doing.
This expansion wasn't just about numbers, it was about authority. The administration developed a secret kill list, a weekly process where the commander-in-chief personally approved approved the offing of targets, including, for the first time, American citizens, without trial or due process. The Peace Prize winner was now personally curating a list of people to be eliminated by remote control, a shocking reality hidden behind a humanitarian public image.
It was all style, zero substance, unless you count drone strikes, NSA surveillance, and a mountain of executive orders.
Barry and Michelle took a private jet down to Australia this week. Michelle looked miserable. What'd she have to be so sad about? Her husband's making millions in Australia. People are paying what, $900 a ticket just to hear him talk? Now, Obama met Australia's prime minister. Look how happy they are. Barry didn't even need a Marine to hold the...
This wasn't his only foray into global chaos. In Libya, he led a NATO intervention to protect civilians, a noble goal that quickly spiraled into regime change. The mission left the country in ruins, creating a failed state and a hotbed for extremists that destabilizes the region to this day. There was no plan for what came after, only the self-assured belief that intervention was the right thing to do.
Barack Obama's bored. Michelle's outshining him. She's a big Netflix star, best-selling author, and now she's a fruit juice tycoon. And he's just left starved for attention, just the way Michelle likes it.
We had your wife Michelle on the show, and she had mentioned that for about 10 years of the marriage, she really didn't like you.
Oh, man.
So asking for a friend, how do you get back in good graces? Again, for a friend. You got a pen so I can take some notes?
Let me just say this. It sure helps to be out of the White House. And to have a little more time with her.
Then there was the infamous red line in Syria. After declaring that the use of chemical weapons was a line that could not be crossed, he stood down when it was. The red line, drawn with such bold rhetoric, faded into a pale suggestion, exposing his foreign policy as a series of powerful speeches followed by hesitant and often disastrous actions. And if you thought the deception stopped at the border, what was happening at home was even more chilling.
Obama during this Kamala Harris administration, it changed my opinion of that guy.
I don't understand how we got so toxic, so divided, and so bitter. And
He said he wanted generals like Adolf Hitler had. Donald Trump said that.
Did you have a high opinion of him before?
Yeah, I did. I did, just as an intelligent person, a statesman. He's probably like caught up in the system. It's very difficult to make real meaningful change. You think you're going to do something, and then you get into office, and you're like, oh God, what a quagmire this place is. But watching him just straight up lie about Trump.
He promised to run the most transparent administration in history. He signed the Whistleblower Protection Enhancement Act and spoke passionately about protecting those who dared to expose government wrongdoing. It was a core part of the Change brand, a promise to shed light on the darkest corners of Washington. But it was a promise he would break more dramatically than any other.
Some class, Barack. Ex-presidents don't go to foreign countries to hammer other ex-presidents. It's just not done. And what he's saying is totally wrong. Obama turbocharged China. Under Obama, China built up their military, hacked our companies, stole our factories. While our economy had the weakest recovery since World War II.
In a stunning reversal, his Department of Justice waged an unprecedented war on whistleblowers. Using the archaic Espionage Act, a law designed to prosecute spies, the Obama administration charged more sources and whistleblowers than all previous administrations combined. Men who tried to expose waste and wrongdoing found their lives destroyed, their careers ruined, and their freedom threatened by the very administration that vowed to protect them.
The roots of the earth.
But Obama said, get out of here, Auntie. I don't want your dumb bush. Elder Auntie got booted from the event for being too difficult. She's 78 years old. Obama didn't go all the way to Australia for a welcome bush. He's there for two reasons: make money and trash Trump. Barry says that he had China in the palm of his hand. And once Trump took over, Xi Jinping ate our lunch.
I think China feels as if it does not have to operate under the same constraints that it did when I was president.
Then came Edward Snowden. His revelations were a bombshell that exposed the lie at the heart of the administration's claims. The NSA wasn't just targeting foreign adversaries, it was building a massive surveillance apparatus to monitor the phone calls and internet activity of its own citizens. When unmasked, the president didn't condemn the overreach. He condemned the whistleblower, painting Snowden as a traitor for exposing the truth.
Give me some volume and go full screen.
What you know now, do you wish you had a third term? you know what, if I could make an arrangement where I had a stand-in, a front man or front woman, and they had an earpiece in, and I was just in my basement in my sweats looking through the stuff, and then I could sort of deliver the lines, but somebody else was doing all the talking and ceremony, I'd be fine with that.
We know he wasn't really running the country.
Yeah.
We used to think he was actually running the country, and now they're like, no, he didn't even see those executive orders. That was all auto-penned.
When Obama took office, the country was in the grips of a massive financial crisis. The narrative was one of heroic intervention, of a steady hand pulling the nation back from the brink. The stimulus package and bank bailouts were sold as a rescue for the American economy, but the real rescue was for Wall Street. The very institutions that gambled away the world's economy were propped up with taxpayer money, and not a single major executive went to jail. For ordinary Americans, the story was very different. Main Street got a slow, grueling recovery, millions lost their homes, and underemployment became the new normal. Most damning of all, income inequality. The gap between the ultra-rich and everyone else didn't shrink. It widened significantly under his watch. The performance was a triumphant economic comeback. The reality was that the game remained rigged for the same players.
Do you remember when they gave that speech, when he gave a speech on television, and everybody was like, fuck this? And then they go, it kind of just went away.
It was one of the most beautiful moments in modern American history. People really actually stood up and stopped a war from happening.
Today, I authorize the Armed Forces of the United States to begin a limited military action in Libya in support of an international effort to protect Libyan civilians.
Barack Obama didn't just retire, he monetized. The man who had cautioned against the excesses of wealth seamlessly transitioned into a global brand, accumulating a massive fortune. It began with reported $65 million book deals for him and Michelle, followed by a lucrative production deal with Netflix to create documentaries and films that often centered on their own legacies. His lifestyle transformed to match his new income. The public servant was now a certified member of the global elite, commanding speaking fees of $400,000 or more. He hobnobbed with billionaires on private yachts and vacationed in exotic locales, building a personal empire on the back of his political fame, a life completely detached from the struggles of the average Americans who had put him in power. In his post-presidency, climate change became one of Obama's signature issues. He travels the world, delivering powerful, urgent speeches about the existential threat of global warming. He lectures nations on their carbon emissions and warns of the catastrophic consequences of rising sea levels. It's a compelling performance, delivered with his signature blend of gravitas and hope. But his own actions made a mockery of his message. In 2021, he purchased a stunning 29-acre, multi-million-dollar estate in Martha's Vineyard, right on the waterfront. For a man so profoundly concerned about rising sea levels, he seemed remarkably confident in his investment, a glaring contradiction that the media largely ignored. Then there's the travel. His climate crusade is powered by private jets, one of the most carbon-intensive forms of transportation on the planet. To attend a summit or deliver a speech, he often utilizes a mode of travel that generates more carbon in a single flight than the average person does in a year. He became a climate prophet who lives like a carbon king, a perfect symbol of his administration. All style, little substance. Most ex-presidents fade into the background. Obama, however, has remained deeply involved in politics, fueling widespread speculation that he is more than just an advisor, that he is, in effect, a shadow president. And the most damning evidence comes from his own mouth in a joke that many believe was a confession. He once quipped about his ideal third term. If I could make an arrangement where I had a stand-in, a front man or front woman, and they had an earpiece in, and I was just in my basement in my sweats, I'd be fine with that. Many now see his fingerprints all over the current administration, a man enjoying the power without any of the accountability, pulling the strings from his luxurious secluded perch. So what then is the true legacy of Barack Obama? His most enduring achievement may not be policy, but the perfection of the political brand. He was an illusionist who sold the world a beautiful story, a story so powerful that few looked at what was happening backstage. He governed like a pragmatist, but spoke like a revolutionary. And now, as the illusion cracks, the final question remains: did he change America, or just change how politics is packaged and sold? And what is the real cost of a legacy built not on substance, but on the beautiful hollow echo of a promise?